I've been wanting to tell you a little bit about my barn, and now's a good opportunity. We're waiting for the little pregnant goats behind me to finish their special rations, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about my barn and give you a little background on it. I call it my barn rather than our barn because it really is my barn. Eric built it for me. I pitched in a little help where I could, but he built it for me and the goats. He's not really into goats. Pigs are more his thing, and he actually has his own barn, and that's where he's building the farrowing pen currently for the pigs. When we first decided to get goats, I'd been researching for a couple of years, so I wasn't completely ignorant. I knew a few things about goats, and I knew they needed a good habitat. Of course, when we picked out the very goats we wanted, we didn't have anything built for them, and we needed something in a hurry, so we went ahead and started with a 10 by 10 dog kennel, and we put a roof on it, made it secure, and we built a little house inside it so they could be cozy. And that was what we had for the first few months. And then it became, fall time. It was in August when we got the goats. And then fall started, and it started getting a little cool, and I said, I think we really need to put some sides on the pen. So we did that. And we left one little window for them because I could look out of their little house up at our house, and I didn't want to close that off for them, so you'll see that. Then in springtime, towards spring, I said, we're going to have kids. We had a doe that was pregnant. I said, I need a little extra room. So Eric decided, he says, well, I can build on to the dog kennel. I can make it a barn. So he extended it out and put some stalls. He put 3 stalls and a feed room for me, and he said at the time, he says, I think later on I'll build a mirror image to this side of the barn with the central covered corridor. So that was in the plan. As of last spring, we finished the first stage with the 3 stalls in the feed room last spring. He said this fall I'll start the other side, which he did back in November, December, and then by end of December we were pretty much finished with the barn. We still have some finishing touches. But let me just take you on a little tour. I've tried to show you some pictures of how we started, but let me take you on a little tour of what it looks like now. We'll start here from the outside of the barn so you can see the finished product as it is currently. Well, when I say finished, it does have a few finishing touches that we need to do, and I'll point that out. See over here we have wisteria tree that I've had to cordon off so the goats can't eat it. And you may have seen the signs behind me inside the name signs. My cousin actually made those for me and gave them to me for Christmas along with this sign, and it was such a surprise. I absolutely love those signs. He's so talented. Approaching here, this was the original 10 by 10 dog kennel. We just had the roof on it and the little house inside for the goats to get in out of the breeze. Everest is residing in there temporarily, our livestock guardian dog. She had heartworm treatment a little over 3 weeks ago, so she'll get to come out and play again this weekend. She's not too happy. She's terribly bored and depressed, and I can't say that I blame her. You'll see up here we have an opening down the length of the barn. Handy little ledge to set things. But this side of the barn, since we built it off the original dog kennel, it's kind of low, and my husband is 6'1" and I'm 5'9", so 6 feet tall is not very tall for us. We wanted to make the other side a little bit taller, so we ended up with this ledge up here and this opening, and that's one of the finishing touches we need to put on. Currently it's open. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't get that cold here, but I still want to close this off. And what we have is some plexiglass that I found at Habitat Restore. So we're going to put plexiglass up there so it will let light in, but we're going to hinge it so I'll be able to open it in the summertime. Off of this first 10 by 10 dog kennel, we started building the stalls, and this was the first phase of the barn expansion. These 3 stalls down through here. And each stall is 5 by 5. And originally, since we hadn't built on and we didn't have the central covered corridor, it was open to the weather. So we went in 5 feet. So we had a little bit of roof here. We have mangers in there, and we have the little flaps here where the goats, I can pin this up and the goats can eat. And then at nighttime, especially if there are little kids in there, I can flap it back down and secure it. We're not really using these stalls right now, so I've got our tools in there where we're working on the chicken fence. This last stall is kind of turned into the kitten habitat. They're not so little anymore, but when they were little, I wanted them to be secure at night, and I actually still secure them at night. I don't want coyotes or anything like that to get them, so they get tucked in, and they're next to the feed room, so they can still eat mice if they so choose, which they usually choose to eat meow mix rather than mice. They've gotten a little fat. They look like little bread loaves. On the other side here, we have the new addition. And I love the way we've configured these stalls. Gabby here was being a little turkey about getting in her stall. She didn't want to for her dinner, but that's okay, because this stall here actually has a 5-foot gate on it. So we can just swing it out, latch it here, and make this area in here 10 by 10. So that's what I did for her since I couldn't get her in the stall. Each of our stalls has a lift-off door on it. And I'll go inside here in a second so you can get a closer look at that. We've used cattle panels out here, which I'm actually going to have to add some wire to this because the little kids could go right through. So I'm going to add some wire down towards the bottom at least. And we've used a rain gutter as a feeding trough so they can just stick their heads through and eat. I think they're about finished eating. We've got windows on this side for light. You'll see. Got the manger my husband built. And we have platforms, and the goats love these. They love to hop up and down on the platforms. But here's what I was talking about with the hardware we used for the stall doors. So we can open these up and just lift them off. So if we're not using the stalls, we can take the door off and just attach it to the back wall so they can have more room for activities. Rowena, you finished? You better have eaten all your food. Rowena's huge. She should be due next week, so I'm giving her a little special attention because she hasn't been eating all of her food, and I'm thinking she just doesn't have room in there. So I'm trying to pack her with a little bit more grain. And Beulah should be due next month. Isn't that right, Beulah? Beulah is the only one that we bred last year, and she gave us 3 kids. These guys right here. And Gabby's a pill. She's our herd queen, and I think she's probably due next week. By the size of her udder, of course she won't turn around and let everybody see, but she has been such a weird goat. I didn't think she would be able to be bred at all. She just acts like she's in heat all the time. She acts so bucky, and I thought she might be polycystic. You can see her udder there. So I put her in with the buck a couple of times this year, just thinking maybe she'll settle down, but didn't really think she would breed. But by the size of that udder, unless she's got some weird precocious udder and a false pregnancy going on, I think she's probably going to be due next week. I hope her kids aren't as weird as she is. And we still want to wire our barn for solar. That's on our plan. Right now we just have an extension cord run out here, and we have a couple of solar lights, but we have our wireless access point plugged up and a couple of cameras so we can see what's going on. So I mentioned in an episode last week that we built our barn for $2,000. My husband is a master at salvage. Most of the metal, including the roof, which we do need to put some silver seal on because there's some screw holes from previous use. Most of the roof is salvaged. Most of the lumber is salvaged. We tore down a barn last spring and got a lot of lumber out of that. The windows are salvaged. You see this back wall here is actually metal we had to buy. After roofing a house, another barn, this barn, and building the boys' little habitat across the way, little barn across the way, we finally ran out of metal. That's their little barn over there, and that's actually what we started with here. But we finally ran out of metal, so we had to buy a little bit. So it doesn't match, but you know what? I don't care. We're eventually going to paint the barn, but I actually kind of like the way the weathered metal looks. So we have done a lot of work in salvaging and saved a lot of money that way. I'm thinking I might do an episode on some of our salvage tricks. So if you guys would be interested in hearing about some of the tricks that we do to salvage, let me know. Comment below, and I'll do one on that. So that's our barn, and like I said, I absolutely love my barn. It's one of my favorite things that we have. I think I like the barn even more than the house. I'd definitely rather be outside in the barn than inside doing housework. And I think the little pregos behind me have finished their food, and they're ready to, there they are. They're ready to be tucked in. They're starting to mill about and come outside, so I'm probably going to have to give them another extra little bribe to get them back in where I can secure them. And the kittens are ready to be tucked in, and chores must continue. So thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed our little tour. Please remember to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for future episodes.